Good morning and good happy Sunday to everyone else who's gonna be listening to this. I'm back again with another one. My name is Ofenza Maluleka, the agnostic landless, aka Ashabenko and all. So in recent times, in recent months, a couple of months back, South Africa has seen its peak, man, in terms of discussions surrounding the issue of land expropriation, without compensation. The motion that was proposed by the economic freedom fighters led by CIC Julius Malema. Earlier this year, it was debated in Parliament that South Africa should expropriate land without compensation. This is the background of this is that South Africa, the South African demographics are like this. We are there are indigenous people who are black. Then we have a mixed demographic, which is the colors. In other countries, they usually, like for instance in South, like in North America, in the United States, these people pass as black. That rule, one drop of black blood makes you black. So but then in South Africa during apartheid, people who were mixed were divided. Further divisions were made, so they have their own racial demographic, which is they are called coloreds, people who are mixed race. So now we have an entire community consisting of only mixed people. And some of these people, like they look black. Like when you look at these people, like they look black, but usually you can tell by the accent, or sometimes they kind of you can see that they are mixed. So with the majority of the people who are non-white being black people and colors and all, you have white people who make up at least less than 10% of the population, who own like about 85+% of the land in South Africa. So in an effort to actually create the balance, because South Africa has like the biggest, we have like the largest, I don't know if I should say it's large or it's big, whatever it is. We have a very wide gap in terms of wealth inequalities, with the minority being the whites possessing the wealth and owning the means of production. So getting into it, man, like I've seen this video before, so I'm gonna be responding to a couple of the things that this girl here is saying. Let's just get right into it, man, before it gets far.
Politically in South Africa, it seems that things are explicitly anti-white. The leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters Party...
We're gonna start there. I mean, I'm trying to understand what she means when she says anti-white, when somebody's is proposing that there be a motion to be debated in Parliament constitutionally. So using this person proposed democratic means of going at this, respecting the constitution and all, and this person is calling black people demanding equality anti-white. And this is what we're talking about, man. When people are used to privilege, equality starts to look like oppression to them. And here's somebody who's coming from outside South Africa saying that things are anti-white. What does that mean? Black people being equal to white people economically, so is anti-white to them. Correcting the historical injustices is anti-white to her. Bridging the gap of inequality is anti-white to see what that privilege does. Like, just people are demanding that no, we have the most unequal society, the most unequal country in the world is South Africa right now, and trying to bridge that gap, trying to balance all sides of society is anti-white to her. So let's get into it, man. Let's hear what more trash she has up her sleeves.
The party who put forward this proposal to take land from these farmers in 2016 told his supporters that he was, quote, not calling for the slaughter of white people, at least for now. My, how maliciously ominous of him. And regarding this new motion, Malema told Parliament, we must ensure that we restore the dignity of our people without compensating the criminals who stole our land. So yes, South Africa does have a very, very turbulent and violent, just unpleasant, awful history of race relations. And honestly, apartheid, it's true, really wasn't long ago. It ended in the 90s, which if you're watching this now, was most likely in your lifetime, so it makes sense that there would still be some resentment, frankly.
Whoa. So let me address this first. Let me address this. I'm sorry, my phone is ringing. Alright, let me get into it, man. First of all, I'd like to address this, right? When she says resentment, I don't understand why is it that democratically so and constitutionally so trying to create a balance, equality has to be associated with resentment. As a matter of fact, black people have every right to be angry. They have every right they possibly could be to resent white people. But with the amount of numbers of black on black crime and how the black people usually, when they are mad at each other, are clashing and they're treating each other, comparing it to how we treat white people in South Africa, man, it seems like we have more resentment towards each other than we have towards white people who actually deserve it, who earned it since 1652, right? But we are not gonna get into now we are making them a favor, but it's not about that. Black people, we just want to have our peace. We just want to be equal. We don't want to be poor anymore like nobody else wants to struggle, right? But then here's one thing I want this girl to know, because it's something that I come across a lot of times when when I see these videos of these people, either being white people from South Africa or outside South Africa, discussing this issue of slavery, the history of slavery, apartheid, segregation in general. See, first things first, black people don't want to hear that bull crap about how you understand how the atrocities, the sufferings, they look. We don't care if you are empathetic or sympathetic as a white person. What we care about is whether you are doing right by us. You get what I'm saying? We don't care if you feel sorry, if you understand. You can no, even a single white person can understand how it feels to be black. No white person can understand how it feels to come from where we come from. How it feels to exist even in the 21st century in a supposed to be the post-racial age or period, whatever it is. Nobody can understand how it feels to live in this skin except for us. So we don't care about your empathy. We don't care if you understand. What we want to know is whether you are ready to do right by us. That's all we want to know. So getting forward with this whole thing of white, like it's fun because these people keep on saying, we understand slavery was like this, we understand apartheid was like this, but then their behavior doesn't reflect the people who have even a little bit of sense of understanding, because it's like what they're saying is like, okay, we understand it was bad, but let's put that aside. I mean, it's in the past, right? Let's put that aside, because that's all I'm hearing. We understand, but let's put that aside. So what you understand, that means that we cannot expropriate land because you understand. I just want to understand it. When people are saying we understand slavery was wrong, slavery was bad, it disadvantaged black people. So what are you saying? We shouldn't seek equality right now because you understand. You can take your understanding, bro. You can take your understanding, shove it somewhere where we don't even want to see it. We don't care about your sympathy. We don't want to hear none of that bull crap. What we want to know is whether you are on the table to do right by us. And if you are not, we don't want to hear anything. We're gonna continue like we always have. So this should go to white people. I hear a lot of it that you understand. No, you don't. Because if you understood, you wouldn't be telling us that you understand. Because you would know that you can never know how it feels to have a history that we have. And for people to make you feel like you are wrong for talking about your history, you are the one who has been committing those crimes against humanity for talking about it, right? And also, these people want to talk about South Africa and they don't understand anything. They are clueless about South Africa. So let's continue with this. I'll get to her because she's talking about resentment, as if black people ever since apartheid have made any collective effort to do anything to white people. Because as a matter of fact, it's white people, even after black people are like, yo, you did this to us, okay, let's move on and build a country. White people in South Africa shouldn't think that we forgot about the Boeremag. We know about those dogs, those white scientists and engineers and ex-military white veterans and whatever, those guys in 2003 who actually attempted, who wanted to assassinate Nelson Mandela at the stadium, and also wanted to assassinate Nelson Mandela. After assassinating Nelson Mandela, they wanted to push black people into neighboring countries, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Zambia, Lesotho, Botswana. That was their plan up until they failed, and they cost the state a lot of money between 2003 and 2013 when they were actually convicted. Hundreds of millions of state funds were spent on their tribes. But then, even besides that, during the negotiations, it was the AWB that crashed into negotiations with armored military vehicles, and they were armored. You get what I'm saying? They were carrying guns and all, trying to ensure that negotiations don't continue. We have seen a lot of white people making collective moves to get rid of black people. So when you're talking resentment, it puzzles my mind, because I don't understand how you are saying resentment and it's coming from people who are the perpetrators, who themselves are guilty of committing crimes against humanity, a systemic one. Jeez. So let's get into it. Let's hear what you gotta say more, man.
The 90s, which if you're watching this now was most likely in your lifetime, so it makes sense that there would still be some resentment, frankly, and yes, healing that needs to happen in the country. But calling these current white farmers criminals and implying that they're thieves, that's just not accurate. And aside from the fact that seizing...
Whoa, we're gonna get into this. That's interesting. So you have a problem with white people in South Africa being referred to as criminals. Let's get into the dynamics, like into the factors, into history, because it seems like you lack a whole lot of understanding. First of all, let's remember that when the motion of land expropriation without compensation was debated in Parliament, that old thing there, he's the leader of, I don't know what he is, but I think he might be the president or something, the chairman or something. He's the leader of what was this, Freedom Front Plus. He stood on national television during a national debate, literally threatened black people with violence and blood. When people were saying, okay, let's talk about how we can constitutionally go about this. If you do not agree, make reference to the Constitution and history. But if you agree, let it be supported by the Constitution. He stood in front of the whole country and threatened that if this motion is passed, there's gonna be a bloodbath. Well, I'm sure it's not gonna be coming from the black side of the population, because first of all, I've never seen any group of black people collectively preparing for a civil war. I've seen groups of white people. Some have even hired, some have insourced some guy from Israel, some Israeli racist, to come here and help them with military training to prepare for a civil war. I've seen some who were staking up a lot of food, military armor and all, preparing themselves for civil war. My people are just here, man, like talking, discussing and all, trying to intellectually get a better understanding of how we can go about in building a nation together, and people are preparing for war. These people don't want equality. They are willing to die, they are willing to kill, to spill blood, they are willing to turn this country into a war zone, just so that there is no equality. There cannot be equality. So getting back to what I was saying, Okay, let me hear what she said first. Let me take it back a little bit.
Racist and a violation of basic human property rights. But considering what happened after Zimbabwe tried a similar policy.
Cool. I'm hearing her. I was talking about criminals. Now I remember. First of all, you must be confused because she doesn't seem like she understands anything with South Africa. First of all, in South Africa, buying stolen goods, it's crime. And when land was acquired in South Africa, first of all, wars of dispossession were fought by the Khoisan. There were chiefs of Khoisan kings who were sent to Robben Island for fighting for the right to their own land. Number of land dispossession wars have been fought, and also the Glenn-Gladys Act of the late 1800s. We should also not forget the 1913 Native Land Act, which actually resulted in the formation of the African National Congress, whereby a commission in 1912 was, I think it was in 1912 if I remember correct, by the government of the South African Union to go around assess the available land around the country. I'm sorry about that. And they came with the resolution that black people should be squeezed within a land that makes up 7% of all the land population. That's what they should occupy, whereas whites take ownership of 93% of the land, which at the time they were about 6% of the population, which was later changed to 11% to 89%. But then even after the 1913 Land Act, whereby black people were systemically dispossessed, in the 1950s and in the 1960s, even in the 1980s, there were forced removals. I mean, if you are familiar with South African history, you'll know about the forced removals in Ladysmith, not Ladysmith, man. Sophia Town, in Sophia Town, I think it was Lady Selbone, amongst others. I mean, people were removed in Brits here in Pretoria. Lethabile was founded then when people were squatting, and people squatting in Ogasi. You know, black people were dispossessed up until about 30 years ago, still being dispossessed and being moved from the land in which they belong to. They had to be moved and all. That was a crime against humanity. That was thievery when we are talking about thievery. And those white people who actually bought land that was originally stolen are thieves themselves, because they bought land from criminals and they knew that land was stolen and they bought it anyway. And we cannot tolerate crime to that extent. So those who inherited land were knowingly that they knew that they were inheriting stolen land, and those who actually inherited who bought land that was stolen knew that they were buying stolen land, and we cannot tolerate that. So these people are, what do you call a person who steals property? It's a criminal. And these people are holding on stolen property. That land was stolen. It's a fact, and it's non-debatable. We cannot debate it in any way. We know it's a fact that land was stolen, and we're not gonna act like it wasn't. So we call them criminals because that's what they are. They refuse to give up stolen property. They are in possession of stolen property, which makes them thieves. They are criminals. So let's get it, man.
18 years ago, taking land from white farmers without compensating them. It also seems like this motion is just bad economic sense.
You know, getting up to the end of this video and all, you know, I think it's important to note something, man. Let me check something. First of all, this chick is very racist, and she's racist because she's denying the truth. You know, like she's making it's all propaganda based on nothing but lies. I mean, first of all, we have to understand that racism is pretending that less than 10% of the population occupying 85+% of the land uh, okay, yeah. Racism is pretending that less than 10% of the population owning 85% plus of the land, while 90% of the population still has to reside in okay, let me start over again, right? Take 3. Sure. Racism is pretending that less than 10% of the population owning 85% plus of the land, while 90% of the population still has to reside in concentration camps or labor pools or labor reserves created by the apartheid government, has nothing to do with white supremacy and the disregard of the living conditions of black people, and also the dehumanization of black people. I saw this video of Steve Hofmeyer saying that Afrikaners are not used to being this poor, implying that other people are used to being this poor, just not Afrikaners. Poverty is for everyone except for the African. That's what racism is. Protecting white privilege, disguising it, the protection of white privilege as uninformed liberal views. Man, that's just outright racism. You get what I'm saying? So I want this girl to know something, including other white people who keep on making these videos, lying up to the international world. First of all, expropriation of land without compensation is taken upon through democratic means. The constitution of the section 25 allows that. The constitution of our country allows that issues be debated upon in parliament. Proposition should be made and it should be debated upon and be voted upon. And when 2/3 of the of parliament vote on something, it means it was agreed upon constitutionally so and democratically so. And this is what the motion is about. And these people keep on talking about the situation of Zimbabwe. First of all, this is different from in Zimbabwe. There were land grabs, and there are no land grabs in South Africa. That's why we are proposing. We proposed the amendment of the constitution, because the constitution allows itself to be allows the population of South Africa. Parliament can amend the constitution as long as it's debated and voted upon. Secondly, all these people who are talking about the failures of the economic failures of Zimbabwe, like I said, it's all white supremacy and all, because it's not even land grabs that put Zimbabwe in a position that was in. It was white people, the Western world, imposing sanctions on Zimbabwe. It doesn't make sense, and we see that kind of mentality here in South Africa. It doesn't make sense that somebody is like, yo, if you do that, you're gonna lose money, and as soon as you do it, they are the ones who are taking money away from you and say, I told you if you do. You get what I'm saying? You can say, nah, if you expropriate land, you're gonna lose money, and as soon as land is expropriated, you engage in activities that ensure that money is lost. You get what I'm saying? Because that's what they are saying. I saw this one called Ernest of AfriForum in DC saying that passing this land expropriation without compensation is gonna have economic repercussions and all. Then he goes to DC to lobby that sanctions be lifted, investors they invest in South Africa. I'm like, what? You are saying that this motion, passing this motion is gonna result in investors running away? Then you tell investors to run away if this thing, it doesn't make sense at all, man. Like, it really doesn't make sense. But then that's what it's all about, white supremacy, man. So we even see it with this issue of white people claiming that there's a genocide or there's gonna be a genocide. They keep on saying there's gonna be a civil war, but they are the ones who are alarmists. They are the ones who are preparing for war. Black people are not preparing for war, they are preparing for war. And also, I mean, this thing of alarmists is nothing new. In 1994, after Mandela was elected president, large numbers of white people left the country just to be back because they were broke, and they went to predominantly European countries, and they couldn't enjoy white privilege in places where almost everybody's white, so they had to come back here. But then these alumnists are there, even now. Well, they said there's gonna be a civil war if the ANC goes into power and all, and there was no civil war. And here they are even today saying there's gonna be a civil war, which I doubt there's gonna be, unless if they themselves they instigate a civil war. So to all these white people, we don't care about your sympathy once again and your empathy. We want the land back. We want to work the land. We are capable. All of these farms owned by white people, they are not worked by white people. White people are managing the administrative and business sides of things most of the time. The people who have the knowledge and the experience of working the land is our people, and our people are ready. And if we are threatening food security, it's fine. We'll be hungry knowing that we made ourselves hungry. We are hungry now because of you. So, man, with all that going into, man, like I hope the chick who made this video is gonna be able to see this. And also on top of that, man, please like and subscribe. Talk to me in the comment section. Let me know what you think, man. Like, challenge me if you have opposing ideas. Let's talk, man. Please like my shit, like my video, man, and comment. Let's talk, man. Like, much love from the poetic dark matter, man, the agnostic dark matter, man, the landless agnostic, bro. That's where it is. Cape City, man, representing the city of Tshwane. I'm out. That was long, but I'm gonna have to edit it in a lot of ways. Okay, let's see.